Today we got to talk about Oklahoma's running back depth chart and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time today. Yo, man, Oklahoma has had one hell of an offseason when we are talking about the running backs in particular. So, to catch everybody up on this here thing, Seth McGowan, no longer with the team. Let's leave it right there, okay? Marcus Major is reportedly academically ineligible to play. Let's leave it right there. Tre Bradford is reportedly no longer with the team. This after joining Oklahoma, transferring from LSU in June. And the de jour thing to say today is that he wants to go back to LSU. Okay. Oklahoma also added Eric Gray out of the transfer portal from Tennessee and got Kennedy Brooks back from opt-out. And another player that they thought might play a little bit of running back is no longer there. Okay? No Limit Mikey is no longer a member of Oklahoma's football team. Okay. I don't see this as a reason to freak out about Oklahoma's chances of winning a 7th straight Big 12 championship, making a college football playoff for the 5th time in 7 years, and winning the national championship as I have predicted in 2021. However, I can see that many of you are freaking out. There are two positions in particular that I never really questioned at the University of Oklahoma, and this basically goes back to me being 13 years old. Oklahoma has always had tailbacks. Always and forever. Okay? Quentin Griffith, Adrian Peterson, Alan Patrick, the real AP as I call him, Chris Brown, DeMarco Murray, who is the running backs coach, who we'll talk about here in a minute, Samaje Perine, Joe Mixon, Rodney Anderson. All right, like, that's the thing. Rodney Anderson goes down, and you got Kennedy Brooks waiting in the wings. I understand that you look at the depth chart, you see two scholarship players there. I would remind you, Jaden Knowles is a player. I don't know that you were that enthusiastic about him because he doesn't have 5 or 4 stars next to his name, but he is there. And then Old Faithful, no disrespect, and a bit of pun intended, Jeremiah Hall is still there because, you know, Jeremiah Hall, he's the elder statesman on the team. But you can also take tailbacks and make them wide receivers, just like you can make wide receivers tailbacks. And that is the other position that I just am not going to freak out about for Oklahoma. The Sooners, since I have been a child, have always had wide receivers. Okay? 2000 onward, from my man's the original 6'0" Savage, Antoine Savage, to now we're talking about Marvin Mims, who's coming off a freshman All-American season. We talk about Jaden Hazelwood, who's going to light it up. Theo Weiss, who is going to light it up. Y'all love y'all some Drake Stoops. There's dudes on both sides of the football that you can stick 7.5 yards deep and hand them the rock because the offensive line will do its job. Okay? Andrew Rain, Marquise Hayes, Tyrese Robinson, Wanye Morris, and on it goes. I'm not freaking out about this. However, I can understand the folks that are, because if you look at Oklahoma's running back recruiting, particularly the last 2 years, it hasn't gone according to plan. All right? One of the guys that Oklahoma expected to be leading them in 2021, Jace McClellan, ended up flipping his commitment and signing with Alabama and is probably going to get more than a handful of touches in 2021 at Alabama. Another guy Oklahoma was very high on, thought they had a chance with, is Kamar Wheaton. He ends up basically calling up Alabama saying, I want to come there. Like, why wouldn't we want you? So he's at Alabama. Those are two tailbacks from the state of Texas that the Sooners liked. And for one reason or another, they are not at Oklahoma. They are at Alabama. Okay. You go into the portal, you get Eric Gray, and people want to forget about that. That's okay. The other part about this that I see you freaking out about is what happens if Kennedy Brooks or Eric Gray gets hurt. Said the same thing about Rodney Anderson. right? And we've been saying the same thing for years, quite honestly. I also think, look at what Oklahoma has offensively, and I would not be surprised to find out that you see more 4 or 5 receiver sets with like a Jeremiah Hall back there playing pass protector, and Spencer Rattler goes for 5,000 yards this year because you're that loaded at your wide receiver positions and tight end position to begin with. And if you can't run the ball, why not just try to run the ball using bubble screens and or slant routes and or RPOs where you can actually turn Jeremiah Hall into a really great decoy, right? Or decoy. I don't know why I said decoy. Where that man can still get you 4 or 5 yards against basically one man in the box because you'd be spreading out everybody else. There's a lot of different ways to attack this strategically on a football field. All right, that's what I'm saying. And if anybody's going to be able to figure out how to attack somebody strategically on a football field offensively, it's got to be Lincoln Riley. All right, he's got a front runner for Heisman at quarterback. Hello, Spencer Rattler. Are we going to forget that that's there? If you can block for quick game, you can, goodness me, you can eat people alive. But if you could block for longer and you can give that dude time to scan and you can run some really interesting fastballs at people, you're going to have some fun here, all right? Like Mario Williams is a dude. Cody Jackson is a dude. Those are 2 freshmen that I'm talking about. Austin Stogner might be the best receiver that nobody's talking about at Oklahoma because he's listed as a tight end. I get that Charlie Kolar is that dude at Iowa State, but like Austin, when he's healthy, has shown over and over again, he can be a player for you both on special teams and in the receiving game. And I like to think that he's actually Rattler's favorite target. He's huge, and he's usually in the middle of the field, 6'6". There's a lot of ways to talk about this. There's a lot of ways to go at this, but I did want to go ahead and talk through some of this because I understand that people are freaking out. Again, what really hurts is having a TJ Pledger go into the transfer portal and come out at Utah. Losing Marcus Major was unexpected, right? And then you're having to rely on Kennedy Brooks after a year in which he did not play football, but I expect him to be Kennedy Brooks. And on it goes, right? I'm not freaking out. If anything, DeMarco Murray is going to be able to prove his mettle this year. He's going to be able to prove that he is the guy to be Oklahoma's running backs coach, not just this year, but in the future, with both how he recruits and how he develops. This is where you look and like, yo, Ramondre Stevenson, yeah, he's a Patriot now, all right? Chill out. These guys are going to make some money in the NFL, and I don't begrudge them that. And the job at Oklahoma is to find the next great player. The last thing I want to point to here is Oklahoma, I want to say 2011, had basically Damian Williams, who had transferred in from like Arizona Western when it was still a junior college that had a football program, and Dominique Whaley. Dominique Whaley showed up at Oklahoma from Langston and turned into an absolute player. And how unthought of was he? He did not even have a photo next to his name on the website when they put him into a football game. One of the wildest things. So if Oklahoma can pull out a Dominique Whaley to go run some tailback for it in a pinch, what makes you think they can't do that with anybody else on what is the most talented football team that Oklahoma's fielded since 2017 and could end up being the most talented football team they have fielded since 2008 and perhaps, as I have predicted, the first Oklahoma football team to win a national championship in 21 years. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.